Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Goodell, and I'm a program associate with the Chicago Urban League Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. I'll be moderating our panel discussion today. You Gonna Learn Today. This is Lessons Learned from the Pandemic. With us is Ms. Daphne Williams and Mr. Eric Dantzler. Ms. Williams, would you mind just talking a little bit about yourself, introducing yourself to everyone else?
Absolutely. My name is Daphne Williams. I am the owner of Smarty Pants Early Learning Center. We are located in the Bronzeville community, and I have been in daycare for 10 years and education for 22 years.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Mr. Dantzler, could you please introduce yourself?
Thank you very much. Yes, my name is Eric Dantzler. I am the owner of Bronzeville Salon Suites, which also is located in the Bronzeville community on the corner of 39th and Michigan. I've been a resident of this community since 2003.
Great, thank you very much. Well, the purpose for this panel today is to illustrate how these two business owners took the challenging, unpredictable, and ambiguous environment that COVID presented for business owners, not only how they weathered the storm, but how they were able to continue to thrive in the face of it. We hope by the end of this panel that the viewers will come away with lessons, advice, and guidance that they can apply to their own businesses. So the first question is, how did you react or pivot your business and yourself when COVID and its accompanying lockdowns hit us in March of 2020? Can you walk us through how you adjusted your business operations strategy and your own mentality to deal with the unpredictable and ambiguous environment that COVID created? Did you have a contingency plan set up for your business before the pandemic? Whoever would like to go first.
Okay, I can go first. So if I'm being honest, when it first happened, I don't think I ate. It hit me like a ton of bricks, honestly, because it was so unexpected. At first they were like, okay, well, you'll be closed for 2 weeks, and 2 weeks turned into 3 months. And for me and my business, I'm essential to families, and if you don't have childcare, you can't go to work. So I'm dealing with all of the emotions, good and bad, of my clients. At that point, it was all too new to everybody. So a lot of people were mad. I had a lot of people that stormed out, and I'm like, look, I have no choice. So it was extremely hard at the beginning. And for me, it wasn't a financial hard because I'm just the saver. So that wasn't, that wasn't the biggest worry of mine, but I have a staff, they live off of what I pay them. Many of them have kids. And then I have, 60 something clients who depend on me every day, 5 days a week. So that it was really, really, really scary for me, especially because I have my business is in the touch industry. So it's not like I'm selling something from behind the glass or, so our COVID regulations were, serious. I have to touch these kids every day. My staff has to touch them. So for me, I sat down, and so we were closed for 4 months. I sat down and wrote down everything I have ever done to make some money. So I was like, okay, I got to dig deep and see what I can do. I had never written a grant. I became a grant writer, and I successfully, I got a few grants that helped me get over. When I first had to close, I was continuing to pay my staff. I thought we were closing for 2 weeks. I had a staff of 12 people. So I'm still paying them with no income coming in. I'm still paying rent. I still had to pay those 4 months of rent with no kids able to attend. So it was quite interesting. Today, I feel like, hey, I can do anything. My business is back thriving. We are not at full capacity yet. And that's just me wanting to take baby steps. Like, all money isn't good money. I want to make sure I have quality and I'm keeping the kids safe, but we're okay. I became a published author. I have 2 books on sale on Amazon now. I started writing my curriculum. I started doing e-learning. I was doing whatever I could to bring in some money. Legally. But yeah, so it definitely let me know, you don't really stretch yourself until you are in that situation where it's fight or flight. Like, look, you got to survive. So what you gonna do? And I dug deep, and I'm a different person after the pandemic now.
That's really interesting to hear your experience. Can you, and I think you touched a little bit on it, but can you kind of walk us through your mentality? You said, like, once it kind of, when the rubber hits the road, that's kind of when you really have to figure it out. But can you kind of think mentality wise, like each day, like, wow, I'm the head of this organization. I'm in charge of 12 people. I still got to pay for them. Did you have a certain, I guess, steps, or kind of just what are your advice, not exactly advice, but kind of your approach to taking on this giant challenge?
You know what? So I'm a woman, so I'm emotional. I'm an empath, so I feel for everybody. So for me, I was thinking about the other people involved in my organization more than me. I had myself covered. I wasn't going to miss a mortgage. I wasn't going to miss a meal. I was covered, but I was really trying to make sure I stayed afloat so that, my people could stay afloat. So like I said, I started doing e-learning for the parents because they needed something. Their kids still needed. Did I like e-learning? I did not like e-learning. I am so grateful that we are back open, but I did what I needed to do. So, my mentality was like, okay, girl, it's time to hustle. Like, what you gonna do? You got to bring in something. So you got to make this rent no matter what. So I definitely, like I said, I wrote 2 books. That's when I got my license. Now I'm a state trainer for daycare owners. So it kind of gave me time to do things that I had always wanted to do, and just really didn't. I started speaking a lot more. I taught some classes for the Women's Business Development Center during the pandemic on how to open up a daycare. So I was just like, okay, what else can I do? What else can I do? So I've always heard, like, if you didn't find another skill or another hustle during the pandemic, then you were sleeping through, because, hey, you got to figure it out. In the first couple of weeks, I was not in a good space at all. Like I said, I probably didn't eat for the first 3 days. My clients were angry. But then I got it together, Excuse me, I put my big girl panties on and I had to do what I had to do. So, and that's what I did.
Thank you. Mr. Dantzler, can you tell us kind of how you adjusted with regards to the pandemic and how that process was?
So thank you very much for the question. It's an excellent one. And first, pretty much a lot of what Ms. Williams said, I can emulate. Obviously I'm not in the daycare business, but her care for her staff, I have it on a different level, because for me, I had a unique situation because I was developing or constructing the business. It wasn't even ready to open yet. So I'm trying to rush like crazy to get this building developed so that I could then open the business afterwards. And so each situation presented unique challenges. There were challenges in construction, and then there were still challenges in the personal services industry when we opened. Just like Ms. Williams said, the touching personal services, barber, hairstylist. And let me back up just to kind of describe the business. It's called Bronzeville Salon Suites. So in a way, Jonathan, our design was pre-pandemic. We basically took personal services and put them in individual suites where it was a one-on-one experience. We took into account all of the recirculation of air, exhaust systems in each suite. So, as far as the structure of the building, we were set up for when it happened. What crushed us is the world stopped, construction stopped, um, bank fundings in terms of new deals, that stopped. Everything kind of just stopped. We didn't know where construction was going to be. Were we going to be allowed to continue? Because again, I'll keep saying I was trying to get to that position where I could run the business and generate income. At this stage, as a developer, it's just checks going out all the time. Now, obviously, we had construction funding already set. So it wasn't like, that was an issue where we were still raising capital, right? But we still had to continue operations. And so as far as our adjustment, the structure of the building was fine, but we had to turn to some of the finished design of the building, trying to get as many touchless features in the building as possible. For example, in our bathrooms, which in a building like this, that's probably the most frequented place. So touchless faucets, touchless hand dryers, touchless dispensers for soap. We tried to get I won't quite call them touchless toilets, but there's a way where you can, there are some systems where you can wave your hand across the top of the toilet system and it will do its thing. So touchless water fountains. We tried to do so much with technology where people wouldn't really have to touch door handles. So we had mobile access cards that we created where it's more of you can kind of push your way into the room once you swipe the card reader with your phone. So we wanted to eliminate keys. So again, touching, we all had to adjust to that. So for me, that was kind of phase one of the craziness. And then the second phase came once we opened, we still were in a bit of a lockdown. We finished construction, I believe, December 2020. And I believe we were going through a surge in Chicago at that time. So, we had to deal with the fact that now stylists and people in personal services were all shut down. They weren't looking for space. So now we had a finished building and zero income. So those were some of our challenges in different phases of the pandemic. Just fortunate for us, we had a product that was already ready to offer a pandemic type, service where safety was already in place.
And with all those touchless safety measures that you were speaking about, did you implement those as the pandemic started, or was this already before the?
No, this was after, because obviously we were like everybody following the press conferences and hearing all the medical professionals speak. None of that was set up for touch. It was going to be traditional faucets, just traditional things. And so we made the adjustment in the midst of construction. We had to have a group, team meetings and kind of figure out, okay, we need to change some things based on Illinois Department of Health guidelines, CDC guidelines. Those are the two professional organizations that really drove a lot of our decision making.
Right. And I imagine all the things that you brought in raised the cost of your project as well, right? Because all the technology, all the touchless appliances, etc., they're going to cost more than regular things you can touch. This actually kind of goes into another question that one of the viewers have asked is, like, what is the biggest line item that you had to focus on when you first found out you had to close your business doors? So a lot of people say PPE or getting certain technology. I believe this is kind of in the same line of what you were talking about, how you modified your approach once the pandemic happened.
Yes. So, we, like I said, I think financially, I can't say that we had a budget that was set. So we knew our costs for the building. And I'll be honest with you, you would have thought that a lot of our costs would have went higher. I'll tell you, Amazon was a savior. because you buy in bulk, there's more discount. If we would have had the traditional days pre-Amazon go through your traditional distributors, yes, that cost would have been significant, but we didn't. I'm happy to say we didn't have to necessarily go raise another $10,000 to $50,000 to meet these touchless things. I'll go back to the mobile access, and that was already in our plan. So I don't know if, I just fell into luck that a lot of this stuff was already set up for us, where the adjustment was really just making sure that we provided a safe environment for those who were going to work in our space and their clients. So that was the biggest. We didn't have a real financial hangup where we had to, bring in more capital and pay an additional $50,000. That wasn't our situation.
That's great to hear. Ms. Williams, same question to you. What were some of your focuses on in terms of what might we have to stock up on or maybe remove with regards to the financials of your business?
Well, for us, we had to make so many changes. Oh, you have, especially with kids, kids are gross. You got to tell them, get up and wash your hands. Don't, get some tissue. And, so we just had to change things so much, like no more community crayons. Before you put a tub of crayons, now everybody has to have their own stuff. It's crazy how what I once paid for a box of gloves before were pre-pandemic. I paid 3 or 4 times for a box of gloves, once the pandemic hit. So for us, PPE was absolutely huge for us. I mean, we were using all that stuff on a regular basis anyway. So that with the whole social distancing requirements, we had to buy more tables, more chairs. A table that could once sit 6 kids could only sit 2, maybe 3, depending upon what the requirements were. So, for us, it was a major overhaul. The requirements from the city and DCFS were huge. We don't have stuffed animals anymore. Things that, can hold germs, we had to get rid of. So, and we have systems where, the parents come in, they scan their phone to drop their kids off. I mean, so like Eric, we had that in place before, but sometimes a parent, it might not be working, or, we would have to assist them more. And now it's like, okay, this is how it is. For us, parents aren't allowed in the daycare center anymore due to the state regulations. Like if I need to have parent-teacher conferences, I have to do that after hours. So it's a lot that has changed. So for me, then I have to pay my teachers to stay after. We can only tour. We can't let people in to tour during while the kids are in attendance. So now payroll wise, okay, if I need people to stay after, or if we're going to do Saturday tours, then that's more payroll. So it's a lot of moving parts for us. It absolutely was. And then everything went up. Food went up. It was just a lot. It was a lot. Payroll was huge though, because I had to make it enticing to make people come back and not want to sit at home and get unemployment. So a lot of people weren't able to give raises. I had to give raises. And then I was thankful that my staff stayed with me. Over 80% of my staff came back. So here, thank you. Look, okay, after 6 months, we are doing great. Okay, here's another $1 raise. So yeah, I would definitely say for me, payroll and PPE. And when I say PPE, I'm adding the furniture. I'm adding everything that we had to do to keep them safe. Those are my 2 biggest expenses.
Thank you. So the next question that kind of leads or stems from the previous one is, it seems like you've learned a lot of great practices and lessons from your pivots, or quote unquote pivots, or just, thinking on your feet with regards to dealing with the pandemic. What are some of those lessons or practices that you see yourself using in the future, even in a perfect COVID world where we don't have COVID at all ever again? What are still some of the things that you say, I learned this during this time and it really helped my business down the line, or really helped us with delivering our products or our services, and we want to continue with that practice, so to speak. Mr. Dantzler, seems like you have an answer.
Yeah, so great question. Wow, this has been quite the experience. For us, we've learned one of the biggest things is, because I'm not really offering a service. I'm more so providing space for others to run their business. And so, one of the biggest things for us is flexibility. A lot of people had to break leases, and as Ms. Williams said, she ended up having to pay her rent. Landlords obviously, we're not in the business of being charitable. They have expenses, they have mortgages, and so my folks as well, were concerned about, hey, what happens if there's another shutdown? Is there going to be any flexibility, in this situation? And that's what we had to learn. We are going to have to be in this business, because it may not be COVID, it could be something else, next year. I mean, this obviously is something that none of us expected, but we've learned how to be flexible. We've learned a bigger importance now of saving. You hear folks talk about that rainy day, and well, that day came and it was a storm. And so, those of us who didn't have reserves, and a lot of businesses, if you remember the first round of PPP funding and all of that, went to the big guys. Little folks didn't get any of that. And so saving, really focusing in on saving, being flexible. Those are two big things for me. I don't offer as much service as Ms. Williams in terms of dealing with the children, so she may have more detail on that level.
Are you guys passing it to me?
Yes, that was a handoff. That was a handoff.
Okay, I missed that. Very, very good question. For me, it taught me to think about the future. Absolutely. And to stay ready. We automated a lot of things. Money was tight in a lot of ways, so we had to figure out ways to save money. And even like the way we set up our classrooms, different offerings we had, instead of having someone come in live, which costs more to teach something, then it was like, okay, let me bring people in virtually. And it was a little more cost effective, but they were still getting the same lesson. And then in a way, it's also training my teachers, because they have to assist more. So then they're getting those skills also, and they can pass that on to the next round of kids. So just a lot of automation. I definitely became much more computer savvy than I was pre-pandemic. And just watching, really budgeting and watching my coins. Those were three things. I do like the fact that I closed the daycare hour earlier now. And that was started by DCFS. And I do appreciate that, because we were giving a very long day. And now I like closing at 5 opposed to 6. Like I said, it allows me to do my tours afterwards, but then, it just makes our day just a little easier. So that's definitely something that I think we'll keep, or we'll have it as an option. And it might, you might get, $30 off of your weekly tuition if you pick up by this time. Who knows? But definitely, those things are things that I definitely plan to keep going past this pandemic.
Great. And actually, can you just go a little bit further more about automation? What in particular did you automate? I understand you said the bringing in virtual teachers or virtual content or subject matter experts in certain areas, but can you go a little bit further on what you mean by automation?
So now, no cash passes through our hands and the parents. All payments are, you have to do them online. We have a system, our check-in system is called Smart Care. They take payments. A lot of less paper. You know, we have a parent portal now. So some of our tours have been virtual. A lot of our parent-teacher conferences are virtual now. So that has definitely helped us. You know, I can have a teacher, I can pull one teacher out for 15 minutes to step into our isolation room and hold a quick conference instead of having to have her, you know, stay after to meet with the parents, or, you know, just little things like that. So that has absolutely helped. Yeah, interviews. You know, now we do them on Zoom. You know, for me, it's like, okay, I'm gonna meet you when I say, hey, this is somebody I want. Other than that, you know, and it's easier if I can just sit down for a few minutes and talk to someone, opposed to having to have a full meeting with them. You know, like right now, I have literally worked open to close all week. So I was like, hey guys, I have to speak. I'm gonna do it from home. You know, in the past, I've come and spoke at the conferences in person. So it's just the automation piece, and, you know, doing things virtually has kind of just made things easier.
That's great to hear. And I believe that, kind of going back a couple minutes, I remember Mr. Dantzler talking about saving up money, just saving money for a rainy day fund. And my next question is, has planning for potential risk and operating in the environment that we've just been in for the last 16 months become more important in your long-term planning for your business? If not, why? Or to rephrase it, have you been more keenly aware of the potential risk and just crazy situations, for lack of a better word, that another COVID or something like that, God forbid, ever happen again? Is that more important in your long-term planning now?
Absolutely. Even now, the fact that, you know, again, being a developer, I'm always looking for new sites, you know, where I can expand this business. So that's the unique situation for me. You know, I'm the person going in, buying the land typically and doing everything. So there's a huge amount of risk for me, you know, if depending on the location and, you know, the cost involved. Do I want to build something, or do I want to buy an existing building? All of these things are part of my decision making on how to expand the business. But I'm also fearful of something else like this happening. I don't want to commit this amount of funding to a project that who knows if it can get stopped. You know, we're still in a situation globally with variants in different countries. Well, those people travel to the United States, and I don't really see us having a real robust system of testing folks who come in to the United States internationally. So for me, for my wife, for our family, you know, we still practice many of the same protocols that we have been practicing, because there's still, for us, that thought process that this may happen again. So as a result, we move more carefully. We're more cautious in deciding, you know, if we're going to expand this business and how much we're going to, you know, put into it of our own capital. And so absolutely, that's affected our long-term thinking.
Thank you. Ms. Williams?
For me, I definitely spend differently. I must say I've bought a lot less clothing during the pandemic because we have not really been able to go anywhere. So I've just learned a lot of lessons. Like I said, before I was always that squirrel, you know, collecting my nuts and putting them up for the winter. But now I'm really, really, really into my finances and just how we spend. You know, at the daycare, I spend a lot on supplies, food, paper goods, you always have to have just everything, ink, printer, this. So we've gotten a little more savvy with the way we do things, and not being as wasteful as we once were. And for me, like I said, just that spending and budgeting is just huge. This was really this pandemic was a knockdown. It knocked the wind out of me. I'm not going to say it knocked me all the way down, but it was, I never, ever expected that it would get to the point that it got to. So I'll just never be in the position where if something like this happens again, where I won't be prepared. You know what I'm saying? Like, we haven't had a pandemic for 100 years. So nobody really knew how to react to it. But then it's like, how do you come out of it? And what are you going to do different after this? I feel like it was a heck of a lesson. And if we, God forbid, if we had to close down again, I have enough supplies. I got enough Lysol wipes, I'm ready. You're never ready, but I'm just definitely just more mindful of everything. I'm definitely grateful that it seems like we're at the point where we're coming out of it and businesses are, picking back up and thriving and everything. But if we had to face this again, I got my boxing gloves ready. I'm taking the lessons out of this more than the letdowns.
It's been more than a year, and I still sometimes talk with the mic muted. Pardon me. One of the questions that we did get from an audience member is, many businesses are having a hard time bringing back employees. Are you facing those challenges now? Ms. Williams, I believe you've already talked about giving raises.
Am I?
And also
Oh, yeah. I absolutely am. So I had kind of slowed down my enrollment because for me, it's about quality, not quantity. And I was not performing at my top capacity because we never did before. I have an academic-based daycare. So like, we're known for our kids testing into selective enrollment schools year after year. I'm a former teacher. I'm a former school principal. We are not play-based. My kids are reading at 3. So I need quality staff to keep this up. This is what we're known for. We can't go from those great results to play-based. So because I was low on staff, I had to keep my numbers low so that we can keep giving, the expectations, keep meeting those expectations that we always have. So for me, I am ready, and hey, to each his own. I am ready for them to end unemployment. I know that I was at a conference maybe 2 weeks ago, and they were saying that they've ended it in 14 states, and now we can get staff. Childcare, even teaching, being an educator, it's hard work for little money, period. I was a struggling CPS teacher for years. Your heart has to be in it. So, if people are getting unemployment that's pretty much matching their salary, what is the reason to go back to work? So now, for whatever reason, I'm starting to, I constantly have ads going. I'm starting to get more hits. Now I have hired, within the last 3 weeks, I've hired 4 people. 4 strong. Well, I hired 4. 1 didn't make the cut. Hey, that's what happens. So now I have 3 new staff. But I was in the desert for a minute. Pre-pandemic, I had just hired a director and an assistant director that had kind of allowed me to be out of my business more. And for me, out of my business means upstairs in my office, not on the floor, actually working. So working on my business and not in my business so much. Once that pandemic hit and we opened back up, it was hard. Like I said, 80% of my staff came back, but I was filling in for, I might have to cook lunch one day if somebody calls off, or I was, hey, I'm my floors and my daycare. Whatever I have to do to make sure everything runs smoothly, I will do. Yes, I'm changing diapers. So I had to jump in and kind of become that employee again. So yeah, I think people are starting to feel the bite of, or the realization that, okay, that this unemployment ain't gonna last forever. You don't want to wait to look for a job until it runs out. But I'm in a mastermind with a lot of other business owners, and this was the consensus across the board. Everybody was crying for staff. So now, now it's lifting just a little bit. And now, just with people getting vaccinated and the world opening back up, I feel like people are ready, or they feel more comfortable and safer to go back out into the world and jump back into the job force. So I feel like that gap is about to close, but it was bad for a while.
Great, thank you. Mr. Dantzler, do you have an answer for yourself?
Yes. Thank you for the question. So yes, we too had to be creative and incentivize folks in the personal services industry to start to come back and want to utilize our spaces. We didn't more so we had to give discounts, on leasing, free week or free 2 weeks, or we had to invest some additional capital into marketing so that we could really we wanted to put our business out there a little bit more and really talk up our safety features and the fact that we took this serious. So yes, on our level, we weren't looking for staff, so to speak, but we were trying to attract people to our business. And so we had to give, several discounts and really try to incentivize folks because obviously there was still a lot of fear, about coming back into the arena of dealing with people one-on-one and having that interaction. So we had to adjust and really talk up that, we have safety in mind in this place, so we care about that. We care about safety and security. So we made many adjustments. Like I said, we had to make that marketing expense. And like Miss Williams, I had to become the cleaner. I had to clean some floors and some, this is a building with it's 3 stories. It has 18 suites that are approximately 120 square feet each, and there's 6 bathrooms. And I had to clean a lot of it, a lot of times because, you have to do what you have to do, and that's just part of being a business owner. Sometimes you got to get dirty, as they say. But I was fortunate that we were able to make it through. I'm happy to say that we are 100% full. So, as things have begun to open up and the word start to spread about what we were offering in the community, things got better and they continue to get better.
Great, thank you. Very quickly, one of the viewers asked, Ms. Williams, what is the name of your business? And also, could you say where it is located again, please?
Absolutely. My business is Smarty Pants Early Learning Center. We are located at 710 East 47th Street. So we are 1 block west of Cottage Grove.
Great, thank you very much. And I believe we can also put that in the accompanying chat, and somebody will do that. Another question that we got from one of the viewers is, with the city ready to open up within the next couple weeks, what steps are you taking to market and let people know that you guys are, well, not back open for business, but I guess more open for business? In terms of Mr. Dantzler, it sounds like you have a full capacity, at least in one of your buildings, and congratulations on that. But what are you thinking? I mean, now we're somewhat back to normal. So is it going to be business as normal in terms of how do you market your business to potential customers?
So thank you for that question. So, hey, listen, just because we are at full occupancy, we're still going to continue putting out information about our business. We're new to the community. And so we want the community to know we're here. We want the community to know this is a thriving business in the Bronzeville community. And so our efforts won't decrease because, there are sometimes there's a little bit of turnover, in the personal services industry. So we still have to continue to attract folks who have expressed interest to us, even though we're at full capacity. So, I don't see our outreach diminishing anytime soon. And so I'm again very fortunate that we are full, but I want to make sure that we keep. And it's not just Bronzeville; it's all of Chicago. I want them to know there are thriving businesses here, and so they need to people on the north side and the other parts of the city that don't think there's thriving business on the south side. We have receipts.
That's great to hear. Ms. Williams, could you briefly talk about your efforts? It sounds like with more people or higher occupancy capacity, you're probably able to increase your enrollment. Are you now currently looking for new, clients with children to be in your daycare?
So we are right now. I was talking about these wonderful test scores that we get. So many of my kids are leaving because selective enrollment test scores came out on Friday. And again, we got great scores even in a pandemic. So I have some of my kids that are leaving. So it's just a progression that happens every year. They leave. And so we start our marketing. Luckily, we have not had to do a lot, but for me right now, what I'm doing a lot of social media marketing. Like I ran a flyer yesterday, getting it in a lot of the moms groups and the education groups in Chicago. And literally I put out some stuff yesterday and I've probably had about 10 tour requests. And then we have a parent referral program. So that helps. So a parent refers somebody, then they get $100 off of tuition. So that's pretty much all I need to do, because we've held a waiting list for a while. And I mean, at this point, after 10 years in business, our name is pretty much getting out there. So thank God. So marketing for this, I was marketing so much for staff. That was where I was really putting my marketing dollars in, that staff piece, paying for Indeed, having Facebook, paying for Facebook ads, just trying to get good people.
Great, thank you. So we have about 5 minutes left, and I just wanted to end on what is a advice or encouragement that you would have for entrepreneurs, business owners, if God forbid, heaven forbid, we're back in a situation similar to what we just experienced over this year. What would be your advice, guidance, kind of distilled down the last 16 months and really this past conversation, past 45 minutes of conversation? If you can distill that down into a couple sentences, if possible, what would that be?
I'll take that. So great question. I think it's being repetitive on a lot of what Ms. Williams and I discussed, but really planning for the future, strategizing in the long-term thinking. Ms. Williams talked about computer skills. We were all forced to be at home, so we really couldn't interact outside with other businesses or other folks that we may deal with. I had to learn a lot of stuff to do myself. I, like her, also wrote a grant, and learned to do these other skills that now you're kind of in a situation where, you have these skills that you didn't plan on, and now you don't have to hire certain individuals and incur the cost when you can do it yourself. So trying to really work on personal development, saving, financials, invest in QuickBooks or whatever financial platform you want to use. Get organized structurally, your infrastructure, your household in terms of operating your business, that is going to make a total difference in when it's time to execute.
To kind of summarize what you just said, it's really be flexible and be open and understand that really there's no job above or beneath you. At the end of the day, you have to take care of what is yours. Ms. Williams?
You know what? I would tell people to take advantage of this time. Like, okay, hit the ground running, and save. I cannot say that enough. Look, don't take this money and say, hey, the world is opened up, so I need to go get this person his shoes and all of that. No, save, preserve, please. And just, if you're thinking about opening up a new location, do it right now. Now that you have the opportunity that the world is opening up, run and do it. Whatever you thought that you wanted to do prior to the pandemic, now that the world is opening up, do it. And just prepare. Like, they used to say, oh, make sure you have 6 months of savings put up. No, this pandemic has shown us that you need 2 years worth of savings. Turn that 6 to 24 months. And just never think that we're out of it, and just always know that things can change. I mean, look, who knows who our next president is going to be? Who knows what we are going to face? And as business owners, it's just a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot of moving pieces, and just make sure that you are prepared. Like Eric said, stay organized. That is huge. This stuff is stressful enough, but now when you got to go through everything and find, this form and this form and, and get your things in order because, all heck is breaking loose. That's not a good feeling. Get ready and stay ready.
Wonderful. Great. I think those are great parting words. So I want to say thank you very much to Ms. Williams and Mr. Dantzler once again for taking the time out of their busy schedules to share with us your experience and your knowledge. Please stick around for our next panel. My Product is Lit, creating a memorable customer experience with guest panelists Diane McDonald and Trez Pugh, moderated by the Chicago Urban League's own Leslie Williams. Thank you both, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you for having me.